Constituency. Remember that on the 4th of April this year, 2025, INEC presented to stakeholders of Warri Federal Constituency a document outlining the ward delineation exercise carried out by INEC. And this document contained coordinates of different communities forming the unit and of course ward of this particular federal constituency. Now, we are going to carry out a brief and exposition of the fraud carried out by INEC and its cohort in the document presented to us 4th April this year, 2025. Now, this exposition is a practical process of showing to the world what INEC actually did. Now, some persons have been saying that, oh, INEC did a wonderful job. INEC went on ground to supervise this process. Hence, INEC has done a beautiful job. But we're going to prove them wrong today by the information that we're going to be revealing today. And of course, the scope of our job includes using the same coordinate provided by INEC in that document presented to stakeholders to check for a fact whether what has been presented to us is actually what it is. It's a practical process of just using your Google Earth map to plot the same coordinate to find out whether or not these names, as you can see, as names of communities, are exactly what it is. So, no structure. Another fraud discovered was that INEC assumed population of different wards in the Warri Federal Constituency outside of the figures captured by the last conducted census, as we are yet to conduct a new census that should report a change in the population of the area. If I can recall, the last time we did the census in Nigeria was in 2006. So when the INEC came up with a new figure to ascertain population in different wards, we cannot tell. But this was what we uncovered in this particular review. INEC assumed voting strength outside the voter register as only registered voters who are of voting age from the valid voting population of any geography in Nigeria should in fact determine the voting population of any area. Now we move further to number 12. INEC against our own guidelines split wards with less than 50 units into two and up to 4 wards to make a ward. So even when you say we are enforcing Supreme Court judgment, nobody has asked INEC not to enforce Supreme Court judgment. We have only said that in enforcing Supreme Court judgment, that INEC was supposed to follow its own guidelines, and this is what we are faulting. So in case you are part of the people who felt that, oh, Itsekiri or some persons don't want INEC to enforce the Supreme Court judgment, you actually got it wrong. That is not the case. We want them to enforce the Supreme Court judgment on the delineation, but doing so, applying their own guidelines. Majority of the new wards created by INEC failed to meet the required number of units, voting strength or voter register record of INEC to make a ward. And 14, the last one there, wards created on our lands and community cannot be renamed with a strange name or strange names that are not in existence but should be named with the original or aboriginal names of the community making up the unit of such ward. So if you are going to create a new ward from the existing ones, you cannot give it a different name that is alien to the area where you are creating that ward. So these were the summary of what we uncovered. So we're not going to go into the practical proper to show you some of the real coordinates as we found them to be from INEC own record when they presented that document to us. So we're going to start off with communities from, coordinates or ward created outside of Delta State. That's to say, there were ward or units created and imported from outside of Delta State. These include communities from Ondo State and communities from Edo State. So we're going to go to registration area number 5. So as you can see on the screen, these are some of the communities we found out, were created as unit to form this ward, registration area number 5. And they called it, Awamba ward, as you can see on the screen. Awamba ward contains a lot of communities that are not from Delta State. So we're going to plot some of these coordinates so that you can tell for yourself. If you have the Google Earth with you wherever you are, you can join us as we do so. My technical team, I believe, we're ready to do so. So let's take, for example, on the list, We have number 5. This, for example, let me even explain the table before we proceed. As you can see on your screen, we have the serial number, we have the legal aboriginal communities and the fictitious communities. Note that the fictitious community column was what INEC gave to us. This fictitious community column was what INEC gave to us. Then when we plot the coordinate, the latitude and the longitude, the aboriginal legal name was what we find out. So we're going to do it again for you. So we go by number 5. And number 5, INEC called it Korupimbene. And for Korupimbene, we have latitude 6.14, 6974. That is 6.14. Okay? If we are there, let's see for ourselves. That's the coordinates, as you can see on your screen. And we'll see what comes out of it. Now, even as we can see, this is the middle of a river, and the name there is Odoselemo Creek. Now, Odoselemo Creek, from our discovery, is not even in Delta State. It's in Ondo State, but yet was imported into Delta State to create a community and form the unit that formed the ward, Awamba 5. So let's go to another one. Let's try 6 and 7 as well on the list. We've done for 5, so let's do 6 and of course 7. For 6, they called it Ebibote. That was what INEC called it, Ebibote. Now for Ebibote, we have 6.14, 6974. 6.14, 6974. That's for the latitude, and the longitude, we have it at 5.00242. Now let's go to the Google Earth map and see what comes out of it. Now, what we're getting is still Odoselemo Creek. Now, Odoselemo Creek is forming another community or unit, number 2, and it's coming from Ondo State. Now, let's go to number 7. Let's plot number 7 under Awamba ward and see what comes out of it. We have, they call it Lemugbene. Number 7 was called Lemugbene, and the latitude is 6.109131. And the longitude is 5.059712. So let's see what comes out of that. No inhabitant. And what's the name there? Please, technical team, let's see the name there. Duwo Preuba. That's the name we have there. Duwo Preuba. So these names, as we can see from this Google Earth map, is entirely different from what INEC gave to us. That's the gravity of the fraud that INEC is committing against the people of Warri Federal Constituency. 35, which is of course 6.11, 6.111393. And the longitude is 5.052835. Now let's go to the Google Earth map and find out what it brings for us, or what it reveals, because you can also see clearly. Now in this case, there are some structures by the side, but where the coordinate falls is the middle of the river. Now let's see what names comes out there, pop up there, technical team there. Now what came out is Bene. So what these guys are doing is just to, change the name of these various areas, give it an Ijaw name, and make it a unit forming a word for the Ijaws. So we move away from that. Now let's go to say 39. Let's try from 39. C for 39, for example. They called it Daujuogbene for 39, and we take the latitude 6.121089. 6.121089. And for the longitude, we have it at 5.037948. So let's see what comes. And what we have there is Asiboro. So you see clearly that INEC did a very dirty job and yet presented it as if, oh, they've done a beautiful job. So let's take the last one there from Egbema, 44. Let's go for 44 and see what comes out of it. 44, okay, on the list there, they call it Asiboro. Asiboro the 1, and we have 6.134. For the longitude is 5.021993. What INEC gave to us And what we have there is Kurubengbene. Kurubengbene is in the middle of a river. You know, nothing is there, no habitat, no structure. So how do you create units in the middle of a river? Maybe fishes would be part of those who will be casting their votes, who knows? You know, how do you form that and create a word out of it? So let's move away from that. We are concerned with, you know, coordinates or community formed from outside of Delta State. We're still going to go to the ones formed within Delta State, but from another local government to create word in a particular local government. That's where they created units or communities from another local government. Now we are dwelling on Warri Southwest in this particular scenario, but yet you can see that communities that were used in creating some of these units for Warri Southwest, they are not even in Warri Southwest. We're going to prove that now. Number 14, restoration area number 14. So let's see what we'll get from there. I want to reveal to you the fraud that INEC has committed. We're talking about the kind of units that have been created outside of the Warri Federal Constituency. Outside of the Warri Federal Constituency. Technical team, if you're there, let's move to coordinate or community created outside of Warri Federal Constituency. Are we there? Let's do with that one. Let's make do with that one. Are we there? No, this one is for forest. We'll come to that. You can see from the heading, words and coordinates formed from Itsekiri communities. Now, for example, we have restoration area number 5 in Warri North. We are in Warri North now, as we can see. And this particular word was named with another name. Urogwara, Otowodo. Sorry, this should be in Warri South. Beg your pardon, this should be Warri South. Please scroll. 16. The latitude is 6.11 to 713. And of course, longitude 5.18295. Let's see what comes out of that. You can see Ago Adoku. Ago Adoku is in Ondo State, but yet they brought it into, you know, Warri local government to form a unit. Now we're going to go to another one. Let's go back to the coordinates again. Now, if you are actually following this, you can do the same plotting like we are doing. Download the Google Play Store if you don't have. Of course, from that Google Play Store, download your Google Earth. And from the Google Earth, you can plot this coordinate with us and see what you can find there. Now, let's come down to restoration area 1. They call this particular word Abadigbene. Abadigbene in Warri North. Yet, all the communities under Abadigbene, they are all Itsekiri communities. But they just gave it a different name, rename it, and plot the coordinate like that. But when we check the coordinates, these were the names that pop up. Ebroimi, Old Nana Town, Ebroimi, Old Nana Town, these were the names we saw. So which is quite different. It's actually in the business of committing as more fraud as possible. We've known them to be, you know, that dubious during election, but you know, you wouldn't expect that the same, you know, attitude would come up for a simple word delineation as you would expect. But this was what we got. So let's do some plotting. Let's go for number 3, for example. Stakeholders. And it is that coordinate that we are plotting to unravel the actual name or the actual location that they've created this community or unit from. So let's try maybe number 2. Number 2 there, they call it Asatuagbene 2. So let's say latitude 5.87, 5651. And the longitude is 5.20, 7998. So let's go to the Google Earth map and see what comes out of that. Kokotoro Creek, for example, is even not a residential area. In the middle of a river. And that's what we found out to be the actual neighborhood. Look at the surrounding area. Adagrasa, Old Nana Town. These are the areas from which these guys are creating the units or communities that make up the world, that they claim to own more than the Itsekiri of that particular local government. So we take another one from another one. So because of time, let's go to the coordinates again. Now, let's just take one from Asatuwa Bennett. You can also plot that at your free time. Scroll down and let's see for more. All of these communities that we are showing you, they are all the Shekiri. You can see the list goes on and on. This Koko, Ologi Creek, Ureju, Inovia Northeast, close, the hinterland of Ureju. Then you see Koko Camp, and these are all the communities that came out when we plot the coordinates for Asatuwa Bennett ward. All the communities there are Shekiri communities. With the name, we are not manufacturing names. You can all see from the screen what we are showing you. We are plotting the coordinate to show you so that you can tell for yourself what is the actual location of this coordinate. Now let's move further now to another word without wasting much time. We also have registration area. I think have we done this? Registration area 8, Egbema ward. Okay, we have Adabrasa Creek, we have Okoromadu, Agogo River, but let's plot our structure. So let's go back to our coordinate again. Let's see for more. We go away from that Egbema. Let's move for another one. Scroll down, if you can. Okay. Okay, a little pause there. We have registration area 10. Registration area 10, they called it Itagbene. All these are words created for the Jaws in Warri North. Itagbene. Under Itagbene, this was the names we found out available when we plot these coordinates. Now let's go for say number 3. Let's plot for 5.93 7192, and the longitude is 5.18 2996. I've seen before, so you can see another duplication. They just model things up, they duplicate the coordinates, plot it in one of the words, plot it in another word again, and they keep on having the same location appearing in different words. Now this Bear Town, they are all under Old Nana Town. These are Itsekiri land and not Ijo land. This is the Old Nana Town that we're talking about. This is Adabasa Creek. So clearly from what you can see on your screen, this is a monumental fraud committed by INEC. And like you all know, when you talk of Yahoo, there are different levels to it. There are those who are involved in it for financial, advertisement. There are those who want to use it to seize power. Because the essence of this job, as you can see on your screen, is to seize the political power of the Shekiri from Warri Federal Constituency, nothing more. Secondly, they are also targeting areas with, oil wells that are producing so much of crude oil, such that when they are able to change the name and call it an Ijo name, it becomes theirs, and they claim, that's our community, so that they can from there seek for royalty from these companies, seek for certain claims from these oil companies. These are the two major reasons, to claim the oil wealth and to claim the political power from the original owners of Warri Federal Constituency. So that's that for that particular word. Let's move forward. These were the names of the community used in forming this particular Obujo word that they created. Now let's look at, for example, number 1 on the list there. They call it Oturubiri, and we have latitude 5.508 171822. Let's take the longitude if you're there. And so this is Warri, and this is Lily Hospital Limited. But they gave us this coordinate under Obijo in Warri Southwest. I don't know if you're following. So how do we move from Warri Southwest into Warri South? So they are picking coordinate that is not corresponding even with the particular word that they are creating. So you can see that the fraud is deliberate. To a large extent, I'm beginning to wonder if INEC did any ground work, because they told us they went to ground with stakeholders, they visited the villages, and But in reality, if now looking at this revelation, can you agree that INEC visited any community? To me, to the best of my knowledge, it appears that this was cooked up and delivered to INEC. And that is the reason why EFCC must look into the workings of Professor Gumi. who was the one who headed the committee that carried out this job, she must be persecuted one way or the other. She cannot be allowed to go scot-free. Because if we allow this to continue, you can imagine the numbers of persons who want to go into crime because they know it's as business as usual. You can't commit this kind of crime and create unrest in Warri Federal Constituency and you live in peace in your domain. Because we know she's from Bayelsa. She's an Ijaw woman. So she has done a very dirty job. She's now living at peace at her abode while we are here grappling with this fraud that she has created. Now let's go back again to come down a little. We have registration area 4. Registration area 4. Let's take registration area 4 if we're there. I saw registration area 4. Yes, good. Now another thing I want to bring out here, as you can see on your screen, these were the names INEC gave to us. We have labeled them fictitious community because they are actually fictitious community. And these ones were the ones we find out once we plot this coordinate. So we're going to plot any one of them. Let's plot number 2, for example, or plot number 1. Let's plot number 1. 5.50 22021. 5.55 0068. So let's go to the Google Earth map. Bebe is zoom out. Let's see. This is in Warri Fishing Camp. If you know this area very well, in Warri Fishing Camp is in Warri South, and this place, as you can see, is opposite the Electoral River, and that is where INEC is creating a unit for Warri Southwest. You see the mix up there. We showed you the one they created for Ogbijo. We just took one example. There are others there. That particular coordinate fell inside Warri Urban, that is Warri South, not Warri Southwest. So let's go back to the coordinate. So we'll just take 1 or 2 and we'll move on. 1 or 2 and we'll move on. As you can see, Urejusisin Creek. Urejusisin is in Warri North, and there are all the Itsekiri communities. So let's plot one of them. Let's say we're plotting number 2 for registration area 3. This was created for the just under Warri Southwest. But when we plot the coordinates, the actual name of the community that came out were all from Warri North. So let's take 5.77 84 964, and the longitude is 5.28 45 689. Yes, this is the creek that came from Urejusisin to Addison Point. All these places are all Urejusisin. This is Batere. This is Olupe. Now, this Batere area only are the ones that pertain to Warri Southwest. But these areas, Urejusisin, they are all what? Warri North. But yet, INEC imported them from Warri North into Warri Southwest. So let's go back to the coordinates again. These are just the numbers of coordinates they created or community they created from that particular one. So let's move away from this one and let's go to wards. Wards of the ones formed from forest and creek. We saw some earlier on, but we're just going to show you a number of them. Igoba, and even had Nikoroga in those states, brought it to Warri Southwest. So let's go to, say, number 9, for example. And let's plot for number 9. This Baramatu, Swamp Mud, Bene, Baramatu, all these are the fictitious names that they are giving to this particular coordinate. But let's go to number 9, 5.518 2744. That's for the latitude. And the longitude is 5.32 56789. Let's plot that Goba, which is entirely different from what INEC gave to us. As you can observe, different entirely from what INEC gave to us. So how come we are creating units or communities that are not known from anywhere? We just give it a different name, manufacture name, and give it and say that is it. And what we were after is the fact that it is in the middle of the forest, close to the river bank. There's no structure, no inhabitant. Thank you, technical team, for that zoom. So it makes the job easy. They call the second one Jebiri Town. Let's take Beteama community, 5.488. You see clearly this is Alaja. How can Alaja be in Warri Southwest? It means that INEC has adjusted Warri Southwest boundary into Alaja. So Warri Southwest is now bigger and larger, including Alaja. So you can see the trick that INEC is playing on us. But let's go back again to the recording. Let's go to registration. Under that same registration area there, and let's look for. Let's go to what's created for the jobs in Warri Southwest. And what we uncovered is the fact that these original names were omitted or deliberately, sidelined for these fictitious names. And eventually, when we plot them, we find out that they are not even in Warri Southwest. These ones carrying Brutu, they are in the forest, Focados River, but in Brutu. We also have Ugelisa. Let's check for this particular one. They call it Okoyo Toru 1, Okoyo Toru 2, and that's number 35. 35, we have 5.4102 78901, and the longitude is 5.78 737716. Let's see what comes out of that. You can see what we have. Let's bring out the name again. Okay, wait, we can even see the name on at the top there. Akperenge Town Hall. And this is Otuama. So what is Otuama doing in Warri Southwest? Now you can see for yourself. But let's move further to 36 on the list. Let's go back to the coordinate. Let's take coordinates number 36. 5, 6, 8. 5.455, 5, 6, 8. And the longitude is 5.82, 5358. Ubisi. This area, as we can already tell, we have a Guinea Primary School very close by. We have Ujewu Primary School. What is that Ujewu area? And they brought it into Warri Southwest to create community and form the large ward that they claim to have. And this is how they tell you that they have a lot of communities, they have a lot of population. In fact, their population has grown in leaps and bounds, so they are more than the Itsekiris. But when you go into the details, all these areas are in Ugeli South. So they created from Ugeli South and Udu, all to make them have the numbers where they don't even have the number. But let's also go to another one. Let's try 56. Let's try 56 with me so you can also get to do this yourself. It's a practical session and I want you to follow suit. What do we have there? What we have there is what? Obotebe. And over here we have what? Bekebo. Over here we have Oviribala. All these are in what? Warri South. Ugeli South. Ugeli South being imported into Warri Southwest to create communities. And for example, even when you look at the particular location, there is no structure. In fact, majority of the coordinates lack the needed structure to make up a community, let alone talk about population. Because you can't have population where there is no structure. Now let's move away from that. I think we've covered these numbers of units of communities created outside of Warri Southwest. Opposite the Pesu area. And this is what the Ijos, in collaboration with INEC, is now given a different name and create as a community. Can you imagine? Can you believe that? This is Warri. This is Warri. But they are creating it under Ogbijo in Warri Southwest so that you understand these dynamics here. This word created where we got these coordinates is in Warri Southwest under Ogbijo word. Ogbijo is not in Warri South. Ogbijo is in Warri South. That's the de facto headquarters of Warri Southwest, even though it's supposed to be Okidigbe. Right? But this is what we are getting inside Warri. Now go to the coordinate again. Now we have seen the If anyone lives in Warri, we will attest to the fact that there's nothing like Oturubiri in Warri City. So let's go to number 2. For number 2, we have it at latitude 5.12665118. And the longitude is 5.744293258. So let's plot that together. Or we go again. The longitude is 5.744293258. What we're trying to prove. Now, if you zoom closely this area now, this area should be close to the central hospital area, if I'm not mistaken, right? Are we good? So if you know Warri properly, you can tell that these areas have nothing to do with Ogbujo in Warri Southwest. So let's go over again to number 3 without wasting much time. Let's take that quickly. Go back to the coordinates. Number 3, we have it, they call it Boluama. Now, Boluama has become a popular name recently because this is the fictitious name that they are using to annex land or community in Warri that is not in existence. But let's find out where the coordinate of Boluama is, pinning up to. Now, let's say 5.515163382. The longitude is 5.434113269. Let's plot that up. I hope you got that. And this particular water side is the area where you have a smooth road. And this is, of course, the river, the Warri River, demarcating this particular island from the other where you have the NPA. But yet, this is the name that they're giving it, Boluama. This is in Warri Upper, not even in Warri Southwest. But they are using this particular location coordinate to create a community under Warri Southwest. So these are the numbers of fraud we are here to reveal to the world. There are a huge number of them that we cannot reveal all together because of time. But from what we have done, we just did a summary, putting them into different categories so that you can better understand what is going on in your domain. You must also understand that in Warri South, for example, the local government has got a law that prohibits renaming of any place or location in Warri South. I would expect that the local government chairman of Warri South, will take this up so that these renaming that we are seeing surfacing in Warri South will be corrected. We are also using this medium to call on the Inspector General of Police to institute actions against RODA for this monumental fraud that has been committed against the people of Warri Federal Constituency, or to shortchange the Itsekiri people. Another thing to note when creating ward, INEC cannot create any unit or ward without following its own guideline. Part of the guideline includes the fact that a certain ward must contain, above the required numbers of units before you split them. You can't split a unit because you just feel like splitting them, because we discovered too that there are some wards that are having just 9 units or 9 communities forming that ward. Another thing to note is the fact that the population of any area cannot be determined by INEC. The institution of government saddled with the responsibility of determining that is the National Population Commission that carries out census at every particular point in time as government deems fit. And once that happens, they will determine the population of the area. That's one. Now, the voting population is different from the total population of any area. The voting population is talking about individuals of voting age 18 and above who has been registered or captured by INEC in a voter register. And it is only when they have been captured that they make up the voter register or voting population of that area. So you'll be asking the question, where is INEC getting the numbers with which it is creating these multiple wards? Already we have revealed the secret of how INEC did this monumental fraud called ward delineation for Warri Federal Constituency. But you must also understand that there are legal implications to many of this. For example, you go to Warri Southwest, everything pertaining to land ownership in Warri South and in Warri Southwest has been concluded legally. These legal cases pertaining to land ownership is not new, and there is no case in court that is still contesting who owns Warri, where it has been determined at the end of the day. And not contesting the implementation of Supreme Court judgment. The Itsekiris are not against INEC delineating, but the Itsekiris are saying even the delineation job carried out by INEC is shrouded in a lot of fraud and malpractices. And of course, those responsible, headed by Professor Gumu, must be prosecuted and arrested. If nothing is done and this thing is left this way, it's a call for anarchy. It's a call for destruction. And we don't want that to happen. So we are calling on the federal government, the state government, all relevant agencies, the National Boundary Commission, National Population Commission, the NSA, the EFCC, because we have every reason to believe that this job cannot be done with an empty purse. Somebody has been induced. Somebody has taken money. In those days in school, they say you have collected shukuli. So some shukuli has exchanged hands. And those involved in this shukuli must be arrested, and that's where EFCC come in. We need to even verify the value of their bank account before they embark on this job, and the status of their bank account immediately they finalize this job. So those responsible, the EFCC should go after them. We also want the fact that all state government involved, for example, in the case of Edo State government should be interested in this because some of their communities are already being annexed and brought into Warri North. Ondo State as well should be interested in this because some of their communities are now being imported into Warri North to create work for the just. You go to, for example, the one we saw in Ughelli South, and of course the Udu area. Those, Urobos over there can also look at this and discover what is ongoing in their backyard. Delta State government should be interested in this. The oil firms operating in Warri Federal Constituency should be interested in this. The NUPRC, the Upstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority, all of them should take this very seriously because there is no way we will allow illegality to continue to thrive even when we have uncovered this. And don't forget that this information, as you can tell here, and every other explanation, petition alongside have been submitted to relevant agencies, institutions of government over do this. God bless you all. God bless Nigerians. Okay, before I call it a wrap, finally, thank you very much. We have a leader here who's going to join us and do a little bit of a joiner on this one, on the court cases pertaining to many of these land in Warri Southwest. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I want to thank our brother, Mr. Bryce, who has done a very wonderful job. I hope the whole world today now knows that this is a fraud that has been done against the Itsekiris in Warri Federal Constituency. The Itsekiris is known all over the world as peace-loving people. We have always been known to obey court judgments from time immemorial. Anywhere you win and Itsekiri man comes, it leaves you. If he wins you, he believes you should also obey the court judgment. When this issue of INEC came up, when they said INEC has done delineation, the Itsekiri nation did not go to war. You never saw the Itsekiri people blowing up pipelines. You didn't hear issue of avengers. All we want is for the world to see the monumental fraud that has been done by INEC. And my brother, I believe, has done justice to it. The world today has now seen the fraud in Warri Southwest that has never been seen before. INEC is carrying out what is called the obedience of this proposed resolution. INEC told the world that it's carrying out the implementation in obedience of the Supreme Court judgment as regards the determination of the world. However, in Warri Southwest, INEC created the word and called it Okerenkoko. And that's a great aberration because the whole world knows that there is nothing like Okerenkoko known to law. There is a Supreme Court judgment already, which is the W2949. The Supreme Court judgment W2949, where it has been affirmed that the issue of the ownership of that entire area is known to the court of law known aboriginally, known to Nigerian government, even down to Delta State, as Okereigo, not Okerekoko. But while carrying out this delineation, we proposed the name illegally. Also, the issue of the other word they created for Bakokodia. If you check these things, you will see it called Bakokodia. Bakokodia in the aboriginal names. But fictitious name, you see Christmas Bene, you see different names. INEC is just giving names in the name of Bene, according to the dictates of what we don't know, if there is polarization or not. But when you see Bakokodia here, you see Bekenawe, you see Fifia Zion, you see Osunde community, you see Gonfubu community. But if you check with the government, like my brother has been doing, you will confirm with this coordinates that it is Bakokodia. Bakokodia is the name, and there is a court judgment, surprisingly, a Supreme Court judgment that has settled the ownership of this judgment for over 30-40 years. Same thing for Okereigo. Same thing for the area of Egwazis. So I don't really know where they call this their political kingdom that was formed according to Benekema in 6th century before Jesus came. However, it is known to law as a kingdom formed just less than 1999, should be around 2006, and yet they were creating what's there, even when there is a Supreme Court, there is a judgment as regards the ownership of the entire Egwazis. Egwa is an Omadino land. Katu is an affront from the Omadino land, and Omadino has a boundary in the Egwazis with Katu. However, you will check here and you find that instead of Egwa, instead of Ubefa, you see Goro Bene, you see Pondi Bene, you see Omoma Bene, you see Kongala Bene. In the land that is already known as an aboriginal name, since the creation, before the creation of Nigeria, as Abiteye. In this thing, but when you check, you see Ubefa here. You check here, you see Ubefa, Warri Kingdom, Madnola. All you see Baramata Ekpema. They are trying to want to rewrite history, and INEC is trying to create a problem against the Shakria people by doing what? Trying to institutionalize an illegality with Baramatu Saroe Bene, with Baramati Tsaye Bene, with different Bene. You see this one, Daiwa Ema, primary school. Imagine Baramatu Sugozo Bene, all from what? Ubefa land. Here you are seeing the area where you call Abiteye. Please take it a little up. If you see Abiteye here, here you have a language creek. If you see Abiteye here, all the lands of Abiteye was created as what? It was created as what? Keyagbene. Keyagbene was recently a name that just came up as what? As of 2021. You see the area of Abiteye. Abiteye is in Dele. It was created here as Keyagbene. These are all aberrations that we carried out. All we are asking for is INEC obey all Supreme Court judgments, and we'll be happy and we believe that with this, the nation will have peace. There will be no bombing, there will be no destruction, because Shekri nation are known to be peaceful. Obey all court judgments. God bless you.